President Trump tonight digging in on his public call for Ukraine and China to investigate Joe Biden.
If we feel there's corruption, we have a right to go to a foreign country. I'm only interested in corruption. I don't care about politics. I don't care about Biden's politics. I never thought Biden was going to win, to be honest.
The president's new comments follow the release of explosive text messages between several Trump-appointed diplomats who dangled a possible White House meeting with President Zelenskiy of Ukraine if he agreed to investigate Biden and the origins of the Mueller inquiry. July 19th, a week before the president's call with Zelensky, Kurt Volker, the U.S. envoy to Ukraine, texted another American diplomat, Gordon Sondland, had breakfast with the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, this morning. Most important is for Zelensky to say he will help investigation. Then, July 25th, the day of the call, Volker texted a Zelensky aide, writing, "Heard from the White House, assuming President Z convinces Trump he will investigate. Get to the bottom of what happened in 2016. We will nail down date for visit to Washington." Later, the group coordinating with a Ukrainian aide on how to announce the investigation. Zelensky never did make the statement, and at the time, his aide's messages suggest they did not know the White House was delaying military assistance. On September 9th, Bill Taylor, the top U.S. diplomat to Ukraine, texts, "I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign." Sondland responds, "I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind," adding, "I suggest we stop the back and forth by text." It's that text message from Sondland, a Trump donor, that the president's touting today.
He was 100% for what we're saying. 100%. And if you look, he also said there was no quid pro quo. That's the whole ballgame.
On Thursday, Volker, testifying to Congress behind closed doors, said, "At no time was I aware of or took part in an effort to urge Ukraine to investigate former Vice President Biden." But Democrats are seizing on the new texts.
They're very damning. I think they confirm that there was military aid that was being held up, a meeting that was being held up.
A key Republican, Senator Ron Johnson, also raising concerns, telling the Wall Street Journal that the diplomat Gordon Sondland told him military aid to Ukraine was contingent on launching an investigation, but that in an August phone call, Johnson says President Trump told him, "No way, I would never do that." Who told you that? Meanwhile, President Trump today escalating his showdown with House Democrats, saying he's sending a letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi demanding the full House must vote on the impeachment inquiry before the White House will turn over any requested documents.
I know the lawyers think they've never seen anything so unfair. They've never seen anything so unjust.
Also today, behind closed doors, lawmakers heard from the intelligence community's watchdog, who previously said the whistleblower's complaint was an urgent concern that appears credible. Late tonight, Biden lashing out at President Trump.
All this talk of the president about corruption comes from the most corrupt president we've had in modern history. He's the definition of corruption. He's indicted himself by his own statements.
And Peter, now we're learning House Democrats are subpoenaing the White House.
Yeah, Lester, you're exactly right. That's coming late tonight. Democrats issuing that subpoena to the White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, demanding documents that could shed light on pressure from the president on Ukraine to get them to try to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. They have also requested documents from Vice President Mike Pence, Pence's spokesperson, blasting this move, saying it does not appear to be a serious request and that it is just part of a, quote, partisan impeachment.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.